I'm enjoying it. I love it. I love to fight. I love being around the UFC. That's what I've done my whole life. It's habit and it's fun for me.
Do you feel like, you have, you're going to be a Hall of Famer and your reputation one of the greatest fighters ever, but as time goes on, you lost to McDonald, you've lost some fights that if you were in your prime, you probably would win. Do you worry about that, like your legacy, that you're going to diminish what you had accomplished in your career?
I don't know. Now it's all about the record. It's all about everything. When I first started, it was just about who can you fight. I remember Tank Abbott. He said a great quote: "You are who you fight." And I still believe that way. I like to fight all the best, and this is another opportunity.
Do you feel like you made the most of your career? Because I remember talking to you time, you said you wanted to hold all the titles at one point and everything. Do you feel like even though you're one of few guys to win titles in multiple divisions and everything you've done, as talented as you were back in the day, do you think you made everything out of that talent?
To me, myself personally, I've enjoyed my career very much, and of course there has been ups and downs, but I got no regrets.
Do you spend much time looking back?
Not much, actually. The last few years, not that it has been some bad years. I only look forward. I only look to, green pastures and blue skies.
BJ, I remember talking to you years ago, and you said, we're talking about weight jumps. I'm going to go up and beat St. Pierre and take his belt. Then I'm going to go up and beat Anderson and take his belt. Then I'm going to go take Tim Sylvia's belt. Remember, you were all about your braggadocio was in full effect. So
yes.
6, 7 years later, 8 years later, whatever. What are the differences between this BJ Penn and that BJ Penn? What did you learn in that time?
I've learned. I don't know what I've learned, but I've had a lot of experiences throughout those times, and with that, I look at the sport as the same it always was, and I think it bothers people more than it bothers me, the way my career went. If they want to go to sleep at night better, just know that I'm a happy man and life's good for me.
Would you have any advice for that old BJ Penn if you could get your DeLorean and jump back with Doc Brown a few years ago and be like, yo, BJ, here's the advice I would give you now, the older probably.
If I would have some advice for that older BJ Penn, there was really nothing I could do back then. The way the sport is now, I can go out and get a coach for a certain thing and go and do this. I can, you got all these good coaches now. You got the Dolces, you got all these different people out there that we just didn't have back then to, make sure that I was peaked or whatever they call that and right on balance. But, it's just the way life, it is what it is.
When do you think you were the most dangerous that you've ever been? Like, when was your peak as a fighter?
25 years old. I think around there. I was tough. I wasn't afraid. I was too stupid to know I was going to get hurt. I saw them talking about, BJ and Bruce Lee and this and that. I said, I was 25 years old. Let's see what would happen.
And you were one of the few guys back in the day. You had high-level boxing, you had high-level jiu-jitsu. Most guys were one-dimensional at that time, and yet it took you a long time to even become the champion, right? I mean, why was that? Why weren't with the multiple skills that you had, you were able to win a championship early?
I made mistakes. I didn't know how to train properly, and it always is going to come back to. You train too much or you train too little. People will always say BJ Penn trained too little. No one will ever see BJ Penn go in there, gas out, and say, he didn't rest himself enough. He didn't rest enough. But as the time goes on in the sport and people start to see and get more educated, they're going to realize, in the future, like, oh, look at him, he overtrained that moron, or look at him, he's obviously undertrained. I think people are going to realize that as time goes on, as the fans get more educated.
What was it about the 2 losses to Frankie that made you want to come back and fight him a third time versus, fight losses that you had to other guys? What is it about Frankie?
It's nothing about Frankie. I didn't come back to fight Frankie. I came back to fight the guy who beat me on my last 2 fights. That's what this is about.
Did you feel like when you look at, especially the first fight, did you feel you won those? And looking back at the films now, do you
I don't. Everybody talks to me. They go, it's really one-on-one. That's not how I want to win. I've never said this is how I want to go and I want to win a fight like this. Frankie, I give that fight to Frankie. That was his fight, and Frankie won the second one. So I'm 0-2 at the moment.
As you've gotten a little bit older, you're still a pretty young guy, though. What has gotten harder about training? What has gotten easier?
I think it actually has gotten a lot easier, and I really think it's the coaches around you and the science that they have now, and not just, maybe that was a bad word to choose, but just the coaches they have around now with the experience they have now, and know when you should rest, know when you should train, because if I'm 25 years old, you're not going to get me out of the mat, you're not going to get me out of the gym. I'm just going to stay there and I'm going to keep going, and it's really, it is an exact science to peak performance.
Science. So let me ask you a question. Do you think you were beaten by chemicals at any point in your career? Somebody that, was fueled by PEDs more than just himself, self-training hard?
I always knew the steroids was around, but now I always wondered if it was a myth with all this HGH and the EPO stuff, and now it's come out to light that this stuff is actually there and people are actually using it. People you don't expect to be using it, So, with that said, you don't know who is on anything. This is a sport like anything else, and for these people, although it is straight up nothing different than stealing, it's the end justifies the means for these guys. So who am I to say anything, I guess,
Well, don't you think it's, the UFC's fault that the UFC should have done something to step in and you were one of the few guys who were speaking out for a long time. Shouldn't the UFC as a company have done more than they did over the last couple of years? I think
that's the past, and there's nothing I can do about that. And it's great, but it is great to see the UFC stepping up now, like you're talking about.
During your time, no one ever tried to tempt you to do any of that stuff?
A few times people have talked to me and asked me about it. I said, what? And then they said, oh, so-and-so's on and so-and-so's on. And I go, really? And this and that. But I don't know why I never got into it. I don't know what it was. Either I missed the boat and then I talked too much crap about it to go on it later. That could have been what happened.
Were you surprised that Chael, after he was so adamant on television about what he was doing, that then he turns out to be the guy taking EPO and HGH?
I was very surprised about that, actually. It's just a very, very surprising thing. I've always heard something about EPO, but I don't know anything about cycling or the Tour de France and all that. But people were said that they're using this thing and they can be bigger and have more muscles than you, but have better cardio than all the skinny guys. I go, what? No way. But I guess it's real.
To change the topic a little bit, I think two of your best fights were your fight against Shirk, and your fight against Diego Sanchez. And seeming in both of those fights, you used knees to great effect, and you were able to hurt both guys with knees. And you didn't use your knees a lot, during the career. When you did, they were effective. Is that something that, when you look back on, was a technique that you didn't work on enough? Kind of Muay Thai and knees and all that?
No, I think you know what? Do you want me to beat him with a knee? Is that what you're asking, Aoli?
That would be cool. It was a knockout.
I've always kept up with my knees, and they come out at strange times. Just like the kick that I hit Diego with, we don't know what's going to happen, and I don't even know what's going to happen. But I know if I see that guy put his head down, I'm going to throw a knee.
Being the lightest that you've ever been during this camp, how have you felt?
Oh, unbelievable. Yeah, I felt great. I was sparring the whole time at 155, 157 pounds. And, I don't want to say this after always trying to fight at 170, but, man, this could be my real weight. I don't know.
What do you weigh right now?
148.
Did you feel a difference in speed?
I do. I feel faster. I don't have to sleep as much. I feel good. I feel as good as it gets, I guess. I'm here. I'm confident. I know I'm going to win the fight, and I'm just going to let this all play out.
Some people have enjoyed coaching on the show. Others have hated it, said it was the worst part of their career. What was your thought being a coach for the show?
Yeah, coaching the second time, whether you like it or not, the real fact of the matter is it's a lot of work. And if you don't put that work in, you shouldn't be there coaching. But it's a lot of work.
And did this season go smoother?
This season was just as much work because the guys are there in the house. They want to get out of the house. And if you got to have a heart to hang out with them, and take care of them. When a fighter's about to have a fight, he'll listen to anybody. He'll listen to the devil, So you got to go and take care of your guys.
BJ, what would you change about the show if you could change a few things?
I'd let the guys out of the house, and I'd say, if you lose, you can't leave the house anymore.
BJ, do you have any thoughts on Dana's comments and kind of how the season went, how it was kind of boring and how he wasn't too pleased with it? And even into the finale, he was saying basically, even the winner might not be in the best standing. Like this is it wasn't the best season.
It was a slower season actually, and from what I hear, the ratings really showed that it was a slower season, and Dana was right. People, by nature of having a tournament situation, and by the nature of people being so much more experienced and realize what's going on, it was a slow show when it comes to the fights. And I was telling them, you want Dana to come, right? You're here to get Dana's eye. That's why you're in the UFC, to get the top guy's eye, and that's part of the game.
I'm glad you kind of brought up the grueling nature of the tournament, because the winner has to fight 3 times within 6 weeks. They're basically on a constant weight cut. Do you think the training is a little, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not really needed, right? Like, you can really overwork yourself on a show like that.
Now on the second time doing the show, you better be very, very careful, anyone who's coming into the Ultimate Fighter show, if you're going to think you're going to go do 2 workouts a day. You better shoot for 1.
How much do you think the fighters on the show are influenced now by what they've seen in the past, and guys doing things, it's almost like, they follow what the other guys did, getting crazy, and all the talk in between the teammates, as opposed to just saying, I'm going to do my thing and try to be the best I can be.
That's always a tough line to walk. You see, you want to just be quiet and focus on fighting, and then you see a guy getting title shots because he talked his way into it, and he just lost another title shot. So it's real confusing, and you're trying to figure this whole thing out. Like, who should I be? Should I be that person? Should I be this person? And at the end of the day, it all plays itself out, and whoever you're going to be, destiny will let you know.
Joe Lozon was probably your best guy the last time, right? So do you have anybody that from your team that you think can improve and become what he's become?
You know what? I think at first when the show started, I was looking for the next John Jones, the next Anderson Silva. And a couple weeks in, I'm like, I don't know if there's a John Jones or Anderson Silva here. But now as time goes on, I think, you know what? A couple of these guys are going to stick around, and they're going to be here for 5 to 10 years. I think a few of them will. We'll see. 5 years then.
5 to 10 is a long career.
BJ, you haven't been an underdog very much in your career. In this fight, odds-wise, you're kind of a significant underdog. How do you feel about that? Do you like that role?
I love it. I love being an underdog. I never liked when people say, oh, BJ's going to win easy, this and that. That's why I've never asked for the Frankie Edgar fight. I don't want people saying he's going to beat him easy. This is the first time I've ever asked to fight Frankie Edgar. I'm the underdog, and I couldn't be more happy with that. This is how I live. This is how I live my whole life, being an underdog.
Yeah, I guess you answered a little bit, but how does this sort of change your mentality into how you approach, the whole situation?
Oh, it just puts a big smile on my face, and it lets me know that now you're in the position I was. You know what I mean? You got to win big now, and it's a lot of pressure.
Because of your change in attitude, are you going to have a different walkout song, like something that would represent your new attitude?
Very possible, Ioli.
Any hints?
It might sound a little the same though.
After losing twice to Frankie, what do you got to do different heading in the third one? And what did he do good the first 2 times to defeat you?
Frankie's really good at keeping his. Frankie really likes to keep the fight where he likes to put it, and I think it's going to be better for me to keep the fight in the positions that I'm good at, and we'll see how this whole thing plays out. I think that why did Frankie beat me? Because Frankie was hungry. Frankie wanted it. So if I'm just as hungry and I want it, maybe I got a chance.
What brings back the hunger? Is it just the fact that this was you almost stepped away and then came back, or was it something else?
I think the same thing that brings back the hunger is the same thing that gives somebody who's just about to start fighting the hunger, It's just like, it's really true, the word hungry. I mean, if you put a steak and lobster in front of someone and they say they're not hungry, they're not going to eat it, So there's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of truth to drive and desire. You see a lot of coaches, they don't want to train the guy. Oh, he could be better, but he ain't hungry. I'm not going to train him. That's just life.
You talked in the past about not wanting to go back home to your kids beat up and stuff. I mean, how does your family feel about you fighting again? Were they pretty much on board when you made your decision?
Yeah, they were like, okay, you're gonna fight at 145 pounds. Okay, go ahead, give it a shot.
We're at 135. I mean, you fought as light heavyweight.
I make 135 easy right now. Let's just do this first.
Did you even hesitate when they told you the fight could be only at 145?
Didn't even hesitate.
Dana in the past has said, not specifically about you, but when people get the thoughts in their head about possibly retiring, that maybe that's what they should do, that it's hard to get that fire back. How did you sort of get that out of your head, that maybe this was a possibility?
To fight again?
Yeah.
Well, for sure. I'm sitting on the couch, and in 1 week I'm sitting on the couch thinking I'll never throw a punch with that intention again, and then next week me and Dana are on the phone talking about fighting, and just I get excited. It's inside me. I just it's like a pit bull. He doesn't care if he wins or loses. He just wants to fight. So
on the special, the film that aired about you, Mana, the first line of it was like, birds fly, something else, and I do this. Do you think that'll ever leave you, this film? Do you think you'll be like 60 years old on a couch thinking, like, watching some young guys going, I could probably take that guy? Do you think it'll always be with you?
Within reason, I think it's tough to get. That's going with me to the grave, I think.